Hey everybody, it's Talks from Crits Happen. Welcome back. It's been a while. It's been a long while, actually. I went to Geekway to the West this weekend. If you're unfamiliar with Geekway to the West, it is a very medium-sized convention, I would say, about the size of Board Game Geek-Con that's in the fall in November in Dallas. And I loved it. I had a great time. I have not been to a show since PAX South of 2020 in January of 2020. So it's been quite some time. And I thought I'd take a second and just kind of talk through my experiences at the show and share with you some details about the games that I played and the things that I enjoyed, and just reconnect with everybody because it's just been way too long. So first, I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's having a great time playing whatever it is you're playing and enjoying whatever it is you and your group are playing and getting to the table right now. We played a lot at Geekway to the West. Played 15 total games, actually. And it reminded me, more than anything, before I talk about the games, I want to talk a little bit about the environment and the community. The community at Geekway to the West was fabulous. It was my first time there, and I kind of knew what to expect going into it, but I wasn't 100% sure. And transparently, 2.5 years of not going to shows, when you normally go to a show a month, I used to travel like 16 times a month, or 16 times a year, that's a big change. And it's something that I was very scared about and something I was very nervous about. Transparently, I didn't know if I'd remember how to show, if that makes sense. But thankfully, this was not that kind of show. This was a very casual, player-centric, player-first type show. So the first thing I want to talk about is just the community in general. I think Geekway did a great job handling the mask issue in the room, I guess you could call it. When we walked in, there was a North Hall and a South Hall. There was a North Hall that was mandatory masks and a South Hall that was mask optional. And one of the things that I noticed was that people that were in the mask optional hall were having conversations with each other. Some people were still wearing their masks, other people were not. And people would sit down and say, do you want me to wear my mask if I'm not wearing my mask? And people would politely say yes or no, and they would do it or not do it, and everyone had a good time. And I thought that was great. It was really, really good to see. We actually didn't find out until later in the convention that there was an entire upstairs separate that had 2 other halls, which was kind of funny. But it was really spaced out very, very well. I think that the crew at Geekway just did a really, really good job of that. The community, the people, the players that were there, it was wonderful. It was just so many different people that I had never met before, and people that wide taste in games. I saw everything from the Mega Civ being played down to pocket games being played, and I loved that. It felt so good to be back in that environment, which was awesome. And it struck me a lot. I have said for a very long time, the people around the table are more important than the games on it. And that was never more prevalent than at this show. And I was just absolutely thrilled, just so happy to see that kind of mentality and community and just everyone coming together, which was awesome. Got to see a lot of people that I hadn't seen in a while, which was also very awesome and very fun. There's probably people that I missed just because it's a show and that's the way things happen. But it was a good time. So I wanted to take a second and kind of talk about some of the games that I played and let you know just some off-the-cuff kind of first, maybe second, or in some cases, I guess, 20th time impressions. And I'll just start with the elephant in the room, which is Ark Nova. I did get a chance to play Ark Nova at the show. If anyone has been following me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, I have played Ark Nova a lot. In fact, I've played Ark Nova 20 times in 30 days. That includes solo plays, 2-player, 3-player, and 4-player games. And it's interesting. You would think if someone plays a game 20 times in 30 days, that's got to be their greatest game ever. They got to love it. They got to think the world of it, and it's the best thing ever. I don't, which is kind of weird to say. I like the game. I enjoy the game. I think I enjoy playing the game more than the game itself, which is a little more psychedelic and probably psychotic that we have to talk about. But there's so many things that are familiar about Ark Nova. It's terraforming Mars-ish. It's Terra Mystica-ish. It's these things of Feast of Odin-ish. It's all these things that I have known from big games, all kind of Frankensteined into one. And that's not a bad thing. It's very fun. It's a really cool game. I do enjoy it very much. I don't think it's perfect by any means. I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10. But I do enjoy it very much, and for anyone that likes those kind of games, I think you would enjoy it too. So definitely, got a chance to play that. Of course, it was about a 2-hour game for 3 players, and I learned something playing it, which was great. I love that. As I always say, the first time you play a game, you make mistakes, and then from that point forward, you just want to make better mistakes. So I did learn something about the game, which was cool. What I learned, and I didn't realize, was that when you release an animal into the wild, you are supposed to lose the appeal of the animal, but nothing else. You don't lose reputation, you don't lose conservation points or anything like that. So that was a great kind of aha moment and light bulb, which was good. Just made playing the game better moving forward. So let's talk about the things that I loved. Loved these. There's 2, maybe 3 games that really kind of stood out to me that I got to play. And transparently, I played a lot of the games that were in the Play to Win library. I thought that was a really cool thing that they had going. They had a lot of really good games in there, and it was a really, really good setup. So probably my favorite game of the convention that we played was Decorum from Floodgate Games. It's billed as a passive-aggressive cooperative game of house decoration. And while it can be very passive-aggressive, it can also be just flat-out aggressive. It's a simple spatial puzzle where you have 4 rooms in a house, and you're trying to paint the wall and put up to 3 decorations in each room. However, each player has their own requirements or their own things that they want done in the house, and they can't communicate them to anybody else, at least not at first. Throughout the course of the game, you're going to trade cards, and you're going to learn about your other people in the house, your roommates, what they want in the house as well. And there's these moments where someone will put a lamp in the bedroom, and you're like, that is a lamp. I mean, that is a lamp. And then there's times that people will put a wall hanging in, and you're like, no, what are you doing? Like that, don't put that picture of grandma on the wall. You want that in the living room, right? And it's so much fun to interact in the game. It's a very simple game. It's a very puzzly game. But we had so much fun with it. It is designed to where you're only supposed to give so much information back and forth. The reason it's billed as passive-aggressive is that you're not supposed to tip your hand too much about what it is you're trying to get people to do and not to do. But it is a very raucous game, and we had an absolute blast with it. It's also beautiful. It looks really good. It's got a very minimalistic style artwork to it. So would definitely recommend checking that one out. The next one, which really kind of surprised me because I didn't think I would like this game very much going into it, was a game called Long Shot. It's a roll and write game, and it's a roll and write game, and I love roll and writes. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm like Suze. I have way too many roll and writes on my shelf, but it was horse racing, which I'm not really a fan of from a theme perspective, and it seemed a little too chaotic at first, I guess is the easiest way to describe it. But playing it, we had an absolute blast, and I was really, really happy we got to play this game. It's a pretty hard game to find. I tried to find it online and through FLGSs and couldn't find it. No one had it at the show, and it was just lost, I guess, to the ether. My guess is it's a brand new release that just got fulfilled on Kickstarter, and it just hasn't been able to make it out yet. But really, really, really fun game. It is a roll and write where everyone is engaged on every turn. Things that people are crossing off could be on horses you own, which affects what strategy you want to do for betting on horses, which affects what other horses you want to impact and change their abilities on. And there's a lot of different horses in the game, so like the game is never the same game twice. So just really, really good, fun game. Plus it plays to 8 players, which was awesome. Got a lot of people around the table and just a lot of people having fun with it. So Long Shot was a lot of fun. Another roll and write that we played, which really surprised me. This was in the Play to Win library, and I found it, and I was like, never heard of this. I'll play it. It's called Riverside, and it's a unique theme. You are a cruise boat captain, and you're taking cruises around like an Arctic, like tourist town. And the game actually has a board that is made up of tiles, and that's randomized every game, so that piece of it's different every game. And then you have different boats on your sheet that you're trying to sell tickets to or cross off seats to. And it was a dopamine rush all the way. It was so much fun. It was a game that you roll dice and you pick one thing, and you cross off like 2 X's, and then suddenly that crosses off 2 seats, and then suddenly that crosses off a ticket, and that ticket lets you get a bonus with this thing, and then that gives you an royal seat that you can like cross off. There were so many things happening in one turn that it was just this dopamine jackpot slot machine rush, and I just absolutely enjoyed that. It was a really good filler game, really good fun, kind of like let's just go bonkers and go crazy kind of thing. So Riverside was really cool. Enjoyed that a lot. As I mentioned, we did play Azul's... I'm going to screw that name up. Azul, the Queen's Garden. This one is the brand new one. For anyone who knows me, I really like Summer Pavilion. That's my favorite of all the Azuls. I really did enjoy the Queen's Garden. I liked... I'm a sucker for hexes. I love hexagons. I mean, I'm a big Civilization 6 player, so I have to be, I think. And the shapes were very tactile. The picking of things was very tactile. I liked that piece of it, of course, and that's with every Azul. The scoring was a little wonky at times, I guess is the easiest way to say it. It can be a little tricky to figure things out. I think the trickiest part of the game is actually figuring out how to pay for your tiles. The second part, which I still have to probably play, we played 3 times at the show, and I probably need to play a couple more times before I really reserve judgment on this one as to where it falls in the stack of Azul. But all the other Azul games, you have a market, and you have all these tiles out, and you can see and make strategic decisions based on, I'm going to take this set of tiles, which will then potentially force my opponent to change their gameplay or change their decision, or entice them with something more exciting that maybe they wouldn't have picked before. And you can, in ways, strategically manipulate the market. And that's not really immediately possible in the Queen's Garden, because the Queen's Garden has this mechanism where the market gets built as you play through the round. In ways, I kind of really liked that, because it really leaned into a more experienced play. But in ways I kind of didn't like it, because trying to teach someone brand new, or especially someone who had really played the base Azul a lot, it was a little tricky to get them to kind of break away from what they know versus, what's the old line from Willow? Forget all that you know and all that you think that you know, that kind of thing. But it was still very fun. I love the color palette. I love the design of it. And speaking of color palettes, they just announced the Master Chocolatier, which is the original Azul in like Willy Wonka chocolate colors, which is great. I still say they should have gotten the Starburst license, but that's me. But it was very fun. Another game that I really enjoyed, and transparently I played this before going to Geekway to the West, but we played it at Geekway to the West, and I really enjoyed it. I saw this game played a lot at Geekway to the West. Like there were probably as many tables playing this game as there were Ark Nova, and it was a lot of people playing both those games. But we played Founders of Tia Tiwicon, which is the new game from Board and Dice, which is a polyomino game. And the easiest way I can describe this game is it's kind of like take your favorite polyomino game, whether it's Isle of Cats or Barren Park or Patchwork or whatever, and combine that in a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup with Tia Tiwicon. And it was awesome. It was a very unique take on the style of polyominoes, because it's not about filling your board up. It's not about just massively fitting things together in the right way. In fact, it was very, very unique. I've actually played 2 really super unique polyomino games recently. One of them is 10 Penny Parks. The other is Founders of Tia Tiwicon. And I've just really enjoyed both of them. 10 Penny uses this kind of not spatial puzzle, because you don't want your pieces next to each other. You actually want them spaced out, because you're building a theme park and you want kind of roadways or pathways in between the rides that you make or the attractions that you place. But with Founders of Tia Tiwicon, it uses this really cool system where when you place a building, you get to put wood, stone, or gold around all orthogonal open spaces. Now that sounds really cool, because you say to yourself, well, I probably use those resources to be able to turn around and buy things. And you do. You use them to buy temples, and you use them to buy temple steps to build your central pyramid on your board. However, you can't place polyominoes on spaces that have resources. So you have to use those resources before you can play more polyominoes to cover more spaces. And there is an element of covering certain spaces on your board to get decorative masks, which then give you victory points. It was like an onion. It was, here's this polyomino game, but here's this polyomino game with resources. Here's this polyomino game with resources that you have to time when you use and where to use and when to place them and where to place them. So much fun. Absolutely love this game. It was so cool of a game. Fresh take on polyominoes, and just had a blast playing it. So founders of Tia Tiwicon got a big thumbs up from us. And then the last one I wanted to talk about, which is an older one, which I feel ashamed to admit, and I'm willing to turn in my geek card for this. We finally got a chance to play Honey Buzz from Elf Creek Games. I had known Honey Buzz was really good. I had seen it played on Tabletop Simulator. I had seen it played online. I just hadn't had a chance to sit down and actually experience it myself. And boy, did I have fun with this game. It's a unique take on action selection where you build out these honeycombs, and when you complete a central honeycomb, you get to take all the actions around it. But there's this timing thing of, do I want to complete this honeycomb now, which maybe helps me immediately, but not long term, but the immediate bonuses are really good. Or do I want to wait until later, and do I want to wait and maximize my actions, but knowing that someone else may get some things before me? Really, really, really cool economic game in that. So I was really happy we finally got Honey Buzz to the table. Apart from that, I really can't say enough good things about the people at Geekway to the West, the community at Geekway to the West. I'm really looking forward to getting back to that show next year. It was just an absolute great time. If you went, I hope you had fun. In fact, if you went, feel free to leave a comment below on the YouTube channel. Would love to hear how your experience was, what things you enjoyed playing, what games were high on your list. Sadly, there were some games that fell a little short for me, but we're not going to talk about those because I want to keep things as positive as possible. But Arc Nova, Longshot, Decorum, Riverside, Azul, the Queen's Garden, Founders, Tia Tiwicon, Honey Buzz, all really, really fun games that we had a great time playing. And like I said, more than anything, it was great to have wonderful people around a table. I, like many of you, and many of us still right now, are limited in what we can do with our game groups and how many people we can get together with, or just where we are with our game groups and how separated and distant we are with some people that we love and miss. And it was just such a refreshing experience to have people around the table that just made for good conversation. And in a lot of cases, like I said, the people around the table were much more important than the game that was on the table. So I hope that if you went, you had a wonderful time. I hope that if you're planning on going, Origins is coming up, Gen Con is coming up, BGG Spring is coming up. There's so many things that are coming up. I hope whatever you do, you have fun, you stay safe, and as always, keep rolling those dice, and we hope they're all crits. Take care. Thanks for watching.